Hey, welcome back to another episode of Life Isn't Over Yet. First of all, I would like to thank the new subscribers I have. I noticed that I got a lot of views on my last episode, and so I just want to welcome you here. And, it's funny, when I was going to release that episode, I had some resistance around it. I thought, oh, it's not good enough. And I almost didn't post it. I almost wanted to change it up. And the reason why I'm sharing that is that just goes to show you that perfect isn't always better. Like, just get your content out there. Um, and that's a lesson for me because I do let perfectionism get in the way, and I'm really trying to let go of that. I don't know why it's ingrained. I kind of know because it's opposite my second house. I have um, Virgo Mercury in the eighth house, and the eighth house is about, other people's money. Your second house is about your self-worth. Your eighth house is about transformation. Virgo is very analytical, and that's where I have my Mercury, Pluto, and Uranus. I have a stellium there. So sometimes I get in the way. Also, if you know anything about human design, I am a mental projector, and I have a fully developed ajna as well as my throat. And I have the channels, which the channels are 2343, I think that's what it is. I'm not a human design expert, but it's called the genius freak. So sometimes it's like I can go on these tangents of topics that sometimes don't click, and then also I can get way too much in my head. And I'm really trying to move away from that. So, on the last episode, I was talking about the Scorpio full moon, and wow, I don't know about you, I felt it in a transformative way. A lot of things came up. So, I was talking about how when we experience a full moon, because the moon is your subconscious mind, so it brings up things that you have on repeat. Also, like trauma that you have, or just these limiting beliefs that we have that have been ingrained in us, whether that is through your upbringing with your family, or from the academic system, or from a religious point of view, or just trauma that you experience from other people who were pointing at you and telling you who you are. And that can cause a lot of resistance in your life. And so what came up for me is that I've been carrying this, and the only reason why I'm sharing this with you is because maybe if you're listening to this and it resonates with you, um, you can see that how you might be holding yourself back in life. So I've shared that I've had, before I started content creating and going on this path of coaching and online and the online world, I'm kind of like I have Gemini in my fifth house, and that's your self-expression. And if you know anything about a Gemini's personality, they're like butterflies. They like to sample things. And so for me, it is about that. It's about sampling what works and what doesn't work. What do I want to do? And sometimes it can seem like I'm always switching things up. But the one thing I do know for sure is why I'm here. And so that's why I show up and I share these topics with you. But that being said, with my interior design business, I happen to have Taurus. We're in Taurus season, so I've been really, that's what's going to come up for you, because it is Taurus season, this scorpionic energy, which is about transformation and the destruction of old beliefs and patterns that are not serving you. And so, because wherever you have Taurus in your chart, Taurus is that practicality part of who you are. It's all about stability and how you feel worthy in your life, where your self-worth is. And we all know that there's a dogma from society, from the systems, that your worth is tied into how much money you have. But that is breaking apart. And so for me, I really needed to work through that, because anything that is of any value takes time to build, especially with this Taurus energy, because Taurus is all about a strong foundation. And if you're not willing to go through this windy road because you think it's going to be straight and narrow, you'll hold yourself back. And what I found is that because I have Taurus in the fourth house, the house of home. It's also your subconscious mind. It's your parenting. It's uh, where you feel stable. It's where your strong foundation is. And my foundation as a child was not stable. And so my mother was a single parent, and, she did the best she could. But there are things that stick with you when you are told something as a child. And I'm sharing this with you because maybe something similar, because I know parents, when they're struggling or they're stressed about money, they can lash out onto the very people that they love. And there was one incident that I was around 13 years old, and my mom was a people pleaser. And there's a lot of us that are recovering people pleasers out here, where this inner work and this work that's full, more available to everyone because of platforms like YouTube or podcasts, you're learning more about yourself and you're becoming more self-aware. And that wasn't available for my mother. So she didn't know she was a people pleaser. She didn't know that she was operating from her trauma, nor did she know she had low self-worth. And that's why it's so important for me to use astrology to help women understand who they are, so that they can step into becoming a high value woman. They move away from being a people pleaser. They move away from overgiving and not making themselves a priority. They they get out of their way so they can have a more fulfilling life. And that's why I incorporate um, astrology with the practice of getting to know yourself, as well as stepping into your high value woman era. Now, I digress. But my mother, since she was that, my sister's boyfriend at that time did not have a car, and we all wanted to go out to this club or this bar or something. I mean, I was 13, I had no business. But again, there were no boundaries, there was no structure, there was no stability. And my sister's boyfriend wanted to use my mom's car. And at first she said no, 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 no. But then she let the pressure and the guilt arrive because, we wanted to go. And I'm sure there was some attitude, that she received from either, from my sister, or, there was a lot of begging and pleading. And so she gave in. And what happened was, on our way there, it was at night, and it was in the boondocks, and there was these windy dirt roads. And he was driving too fast, didn't see that there was a curve coming, and he slid. He missed the curve. He tried to control it. He flipped the car. We ended up in an embankment. It was like the scariest thing that I've ever been through, because we literally rolled over in the road, and then we ended in an embankment. And out of terror, we could hear the sand coming into the car, and we're trying to climb out and then trying to get to the road. Didn't realize we were in a ditch. We fell into the ditch. I mean, it was very traumatic. Needless to say, We went to the hospital. We were all okay. And it was right before the holidays. And so my mother was already financially stressed because she was spending money around Christmas time that she didn't have as a single parent. And now her car was totaled. And the thing is, my mom didn't have insurance on her car. So not only did she lose, her car was totaled, but she lost it completely because she didn't have insurance to recover her loss. So she was just completely out. So you can understand my mother's frustration, um, anger, but because she didn't know she was operating from people pleasing and low self worth, and guilt, she projected that it was our fault, that we made her do this, you know, that if she shouldn't have let us use the car and because we didn't listen to her and now she doesn't have a car. And for me as a child, which I didn't think I was one at that time because I had no business where I was at, but I took it as I didn't have value because I put my mother in a financial situation. And even out of her anger, she lashed out to me about about her money. I needed to go make some money. And I can't really remember the conversation because it was completely out of anger. But I knew at that time I started removing myself from the home and started detaching from everything that was around. And I took it upon myself to believe that I needed to be responsible and that I didn't have value because I didn't have money. And so everything from then on changed for me from this trauma because not only did I have the traumatic experience of this car accident, but then my mom not even caring that we could have died and all she cared about was the material thing. I'm sharing this with you because of this Taurus energy and because it is about the material world and it also rules self-worth. So in that, like I said, I detached. But what happened unknowing because when you have trauma it goes into your subconscious mind and it turns into a belief and you start operating from that belief even though you don't even know that you're operating from this belief. And so what happened was is I took on the role of going to be the responsible one. I was 13 years old. So what did I know about, I didn't have an example of what it meant to be responsible, nor was I in a position to start working. But that's how my mind, so at a young age of 16, I ended up moving out. But what happened is the belief that I obtained was that anything I did had to earn money. So anytime I would get a creative idea, like anything that I enjoy doing as an adult, I always thought about let me just say that I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but this is different because if you're feeling burnout and you're watching this or you're listening to it and you're feeling burnout, it is because you are coming from a place of unworthiness because I've done this. So, this is why I'm sharing the story with you so that maybe something clicks for you. And so, what happened was I always turned anything that I enjoyed. I couldn't enjoy it because I'm always thinking about how can I make money from it. So, with my Taurus fourth house and the home, and I also have Jupiter in my fourth house, which Jupiter is the planet of good luck and expansive energy. And so, because I have Taurus in the fourth house, stability is really important to me, but it's also where I find my pleasure. I love beautiful things, hence my little setup here I have with my beautiful roses that my daughter got me for Mother's Day. Um, because I feel like your home is your sacred space. And so, if you know anything about Taurus's energy or characteristics, they are known to be the centralist. And that's because they love everything that you can touch, hear, see, taste, and smell. And so that's how I feel in my home. And that is something I enjoy. Enjoy. Keep that in mind. But I had this limiting belief. So what I enjoyed, I wasn't able to do it as a single parent. Like I still tried with my budget to decorate my apartment. And, people would always come and say, wow, your apartment's so cute. Remember, I was a single parent. If I didn't mention that, at that time, I was a single parent. Um, and so I didn't have a lot of money, but it's where it was my sacred space. So I did what I could to make sure that it felt good. The energy was good, everything looked cohesive. And that was just how I brought myself joy. I enjoy having a beautiful home. And when I got married, I had more freedom to explode with that creativity. And I had gone to school for fashion design, and then exploded all of my creativity on our when I moved in with my husband on his townhome. And then I turned it into a business. And so I created what I knew how to do is I understood textiles from fashion design, and I also understood um, how to sew. And I was making window treatments. And then, people would say, can you make me things? And then when we moved into our new home, I was sewing drapery and everything for our new home. We had moved out of state. And the women on my street started asking me if I could make some. Long story short, I ended up turning it into a business, and it was a workroom. And even at that time, I was raising small children, but it was something I enjoyed. But because I enjoyed it, I thought with my limiting belief, I should be making money at doing this. So it turned into an interior design business. And I did this for over 2 decades from the beginning of sewing, workroom, and an interior design business. And then I reached my point where it was like no more. And it was because I didn't know about astrology at that time, but what I didn't understand is that Jupiter in my fourth house was something I enjoy. It's what makes me feel expansive. I was never supposed to turn it into a business. It was just what I did for me. Because on the other side of my chart, it shows I have Scorpio 10th house, which is about the occult, the hidden wisdom of astrology. Not only astrology, there's other secret knowledge, but this happens to be where I was guided to. Um, and so I have to be very careful. I didn't know I was doing this. And this Scorpio full moon that we just went through, it shed light on that's one of my beliefs because I was feeling very, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Empathetic. Yes, I think it's empathetic where you have apathy, where you're like, I don't know what brings me joy. What do I do? What do I enjoy? What brings me joy is to talk about these topics and to share with you about astrology and getting to know yourself and creating courses. If you haven't taken my mini course, it's only $33. It's a gateway into learning more about yourself. I really recommend it. But, what happened is that is what brings me joy of service. This is how I serve. And then I took what I enjoy and turned it into a business. So then it was like, what brings me joy? What do I do just for fun? And it's been coming up a lot because of this transition that I'm going through, huge transformation with Pluto and Aquarius. And so I started asking myself, what is it that truly brings me joy? And it's my home. So a long roundabout way of sharing this with you is that your chart really shares so much about you and your limiting beliefs, why you do the things that you do. And there's lessons in all of it. And because we're becoming more self-aware, and because of this energy, like let's just talk about for one brief second about what just transpired a few days ago with Saudi Arabia. And it's all about AI. Age of Aquarius is about technology, but not only that, it is about the divine feminine creative energy and collaboration and coming together and being your own sovereign being. And so those that language was being used. Um, if you've watched any of the news on that, and about it being a new golden age. I mean, I truly believe that the government uses an astrologer. They have an astrologer on call. I think anybody who considers themselves in power, they do use astrology. It's this secret knowledge that they didn't want us to use because if you really know who you are, then you cannot be manipulated. But I digress. The thing is that when you know who you are, you can't feel lost anymore. And so when these things come up for you, if you are at a place where you know you feel joy, okay, joy gives you that feeling. That's why they say if you ever feel stuck or you're in apathy, go give somebody, go do something nice for someone, and immediately you'll feel that joyous feeling. But joy and enjoy. So you can be of service and be in your joy of serving, which is what I'm doing right now. But then what I enjoy is my home, and I should have never made it into a business. So let's just recap what I'm sharing. Scorpio shines a light on anything that is coming up for you during this Taurus season where you have Taurus in your chart. Whatever came up for you, there will be a limiting belief around that. That limiting belief is tied to wherever you have Taurus in your chart. That is for you to grow from it, to see. So you might have been emotional wherever you have Taurus in the house of relationship. Something might be coming up of what you believe about what partnership is, and it's because of something you experienced as a child. Maybe you had an abusive father. Maybe you had some trauma there. And so in relationships, the way you view partnership is, maybe more obedient and you're fighting against that. And this Scorpio moon shined a light on whatever that limiting belief is. But wherever you have Taurus in your chart, something came up for you. It shared that limiting belief. So it's also because it's the sensualist. You need to get clear on what is joyful and what you enjoy because you have to have balance. Like they say, work-life balance. You have to have balance because even if you are on this entrepreneurial um, journey like I am, you have to have the balance for your well-being. And so there has to be a cup that fills you up that you just enjoy for yourself. And then there is what you do, how you serve, where you find joy. So that is what creates your overall well-being to have the balance. Because remember, the masculine energy is all about doing, working hard. The feminine energy is about creativity, rest, and release and receive. And so when you're in your masculine energy all the time, you're going to feel burnout. And I was heavily in my masculine energy because I believed I didn't have value just in my feminine essence. I believed that I needed to earn my keep with whatever I did. So I was always in my masculine energy. But what I enjoy is the home because the home is the fourth house. Cancer naturally rules the fourth house. And Cancer is a feminine energy. It's a nurturing energy. That's where I fuel myself and I fill my cup up because I drop into my creative feminine flow, but it was never supposed to be in my masculine of how I work to turn it into a business. So pay attention to where you have Taurus. Get clear on what you do for joy as a service and where you enjoy things because you need to have this overall well being. And that's all I have for you today.